Hi everyone. Okay, in this video I just want to say a few words about the new film A Complete Unknown about Bob Dylan, directed by James Mangold and starring Timothy Chalamet. Before I do that, I'll just explain my sort of relationship, if you like, with Bob Dylan. So certainly when I was a kid, Mum and Dad, they had Bob Dylan albums. They had the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan and Nashville Skyline. And it was actually Lay Lady Lay, which was probably the song that I listened to most often when I was a kid, and you'd probably consider that to be a more atypical Bob Dylan song because of the vocal style on that one, but I absolutely loved Lay Lady Lay, certainly played that loads. Did listen to the Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, but not intently as a kid, and I wasn't overly interested in all the lyrics back then, and certainly when it came to All Along the Watchtower, I would much rather listen to Jimi Hendrix's version back then. So it was much later on when I started listening to Dylan more intently, but again, I was never, I would say, a huge fan. I didn't get all the records or anything like that. Certainly there was a period a few decades back when they released all these sort of bootleg Dylan double CDs, and I did buy a bunch of those, but sadly with my moves and things like that, those CDs have gone astray over the years and I haven't repurchased them or really listened to Bob Dylan with any great frequency. I did go and see Bob Dylan in concert in around about 2011, and I will say it's the only concert that I have walked out on, but there are two reasons for that. One is related to Dylan and the vocal quality of that concert, but then also very much so this was a very particularly intense time in my life, and I had an opportunity to be somewhere else with someone else, and I took that opportunity that night, so I won't go into any of that, but yeah, very intense time. And when it comes to film, there's certainly been lots of documentaries about Dylan. I have seen the D.A. Pennebaker one, Don't Look Back, and not so long ago I watched the Todd Haynes film I'm Not There, which was a very fascinating sort of interpretation of elements of Dylan with various actors playing Dylan, including Cate Blanchett and Christian Bale and Heath Ledger. Fascinating film, that one, but yeah, very impressionistic, if you like. And then I also have this, No Direction Home, which is Martin Scorsese's 3.5-hour documentary on Bob Dylan. I actually watched this after coming home from watching A Complete Unknown. So A Complete Unknown with Timothy Chalamet starring as Bob Dylan, and then with Monica Barbaro as Joan Baez and Elle Fanning starring in this as well as Edward Norton as Pete Seeger. I really enjoyed A Complete Unknown. So it does look at that particular time period where it's from 1961 with Dylan arriving in New York and Greenwich Village and getting known in the folk scene there, and then culminating with his going electric in sort of 1965-66 at the Newport Folk Festival. And yes, absolutely, this film takes a lot of liberties with the truth, if you like, and this is this big thing always about Dylan, is that, you know, he is unknowable and you can never really get to the truth of that. But really what Mangold is doing with this film is just making it a film that makes you fall in love with these songs and makes you empathetic. So it's an emotional film, and I really liked that about it. I mean, certainly you can, like I say, watch No Direction Home and quite easily see where some of the things in Mangold's film clearly would not have happened. So yeah, Mangold is taking a lot of liberties in the film, but that's very much to serve the story. He's not trying to make a realistic, absolutely, you know, truthful version of events. It's very much an emotional driven film, and I really like that about it. Edward Norton is excellent as Pete Seeger. Like I say, Monica Barbaro as Joan Baez. You know, she learnt to sing for this film and play the guitar. She is absolutely excellent. And then of course we've got Timothy Chalamet, and yeah, he really is fantastic in the role. He does inhabit the role. He really is it an impression? I suppose it is, but yeah, he just plays it really, really well. I mean, Timothée Chalamet is still a young actor, but yeah, he clearly did his homework for this role. And talking of his homework, this is where I just want to mention, you can find on YouTube, there's a fantastic interview that Timothée Chalamet did with Nardwuar, the human serviette, and I was really, really pleased to see that interview. Nardwuar is a local legend here in Vancouver, and I've actually met him back in about 2014, I think it was. He is an absolutely fantastic guy. So Nardwuar, yeah, he named himself Nardwuar, the human serviette. And he is a guy who has done loads and loads of fantastic interviews with musicians over the years. And he always has this really incredible in-depth knowledge of the people that he interviews and surprises them with all kinds of facts that they always think that no one would possibly know about. So his interviews are hugely, hugely entertaining. Now, when I saw Nardwuar in 2014, I didn't know at that time who he was. He was performing in Vancouver at a thing that we have called the Catsalano Street Festival, really fantastic summer festival where they close off 10 blocks of roads and just have lots of bands performing. And Nardwuar performs in a punk band called the Evaporators. And his energy in that band is just phenomenal. The Evaporators are really astonishing musicians. They really play energetic punk rock music, which is just, yeah, just fantastic to watch live. I'm putting up some photos here. These are photos that I took at that festival, and Nardwuar here holding up the cover of their album, Busy Doing Nothing. And another interesting link here is that album cover is shot by a Vancouver photographer called William Jans, and I actually went on a photography course with William Jans at one point several years ago. So that's just an interesting link for me. But like I say, when I saw Nardwuar at that concert, I did actually get to speak to him afterwards, but at that time I didn't know about anything to do with all the music interviews that he had done. So I just had a casual chat with him about, you know, the band and his energy and being impressed with that. And, you know, he was really, really nice to talk to, really engaging. And it was only then when I went back home and sort of looked him up and realised just how much he's actually done. So yeah, incredible guy, Nardwuar. I highly recommend checking out his interview with Timothée Chalamet, because you'll really get to see as well just how much work Timothée Chalamet put into researching Dylan. So yeah, Chalamet certainly knows loads and loads of facts about Dylan's history, and that was all important to him for this 5-year period in which he was learning the role of Bob Dylan. So yeah, I think he's put in a fantastic job here. You know, he's actually singing the songs and he's actually performing in the film. And yeah, for sure, I know there's going to be Dylanologists, if you like, who are going to find fault with the film because of its inaccuracies and what have you. But for most audiences, and particularly younger audiences who have no knowledge of Dylan's history at all, I think this is going to be a fantastic film for them to be able to really engage with the music, and that's the most important thing. So yeah, I found it a thoroughly entertaining film. Now, Elle Fanning's character in this as well, she's given a name which I've forgotten off the top of my head now, but it's a fictitious name, so they've kept the actual person's name out of the film, but actually it doesn't take much research to look up who she is actually meant to be. But yeah, Elle Fanning, really good in it as well, and again, she gives some of the emotion to the film as well. So yeah, it is an emotion-driven film. Songs are played at strategic points where they wouldn't necessarily have been played in real life, and events happen with people present at times when they wouldn't necessarily have been present. So, you know, bumping into Johnny Cash at certain times, or going to visit Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger being there as well at the same time. You know, these kinds of things have been made up for the film, but it serves the film really well and just makes it flow and, like I say, feel that emotion all the time. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really, really good movie. Yeah, check it out. Talking of Joan Baez, I do just want to mention this film again. I did do a video on this about a year ago. This is from 1973. It's called Live at Sing Sing, also known as Sing Sing Thanksgiving. But this is a fantastic concert film that's filmed inside Sing Sing prison, featuring B.B. King, Joan Baez, and in a rare performance with her sister Mimi Farina, and then also the Voices of East Harlem as well. Fantastic stuff. But not just that, this film also features really fascinating footage of prison inmates themselves performing on stage for other prisoners. And that's very much a part of a film that's out at the moment where Colman Domingo is receiving a lot of acclaim for, and that film is Sing Sing. So anybody that's interested in Sing Sing or interested in Joan Baez, then definitely see if you can track this one down. This film would really benefit from a restoration and a re-release because it's a fantastic document and there's so much interesting footage held within this. So it's not just a concert, there really is much more to it than that. But yeah, great stuff. Okay, thanks very much for joining me on this. Hopefully I will see you again. All the best. Bye-bye.